too, when the Japanese were fighting against us. There was a lot of war happening right around Saipan area right here, and it was an area that was really occupied by the Japanese because for them there was a fueling station that they could then attack the U.S. And for U.S. it was important to grab Saipan because then they could attack the Japanese forces because it was a long flight to fly obviously from like Hawaii or California to Japan. Now, if you look at that island just south of Saipan, it says Tinian. That was actually the island where the 2 atomic bombs that bombed Japan flew out of. And Guam is just a little bit south of that. But this is all considered basically U.S. territory. So in Guam, we have a small clinic, an SDA clinic, and we see patients there. There's different services from dental and vision and OB, and when I come, I mostly do dermatology, but there's family practice and all sorts of things. And so I just wanted to, it's a beautiful island, beautiful sunsets, and a lot of it's rocky, a lot of it's uninhabited, but then there's a lot of places where they have almost like a little resort because a lot of tourism also happens there from the east. So I wanted to kind of quickly share some patients, and I thought this might be interesting to you. This was a little girl that had come in, and she had these bug bites all over her. And the father actually brought in the bug that was biting her. Now, this bug doesn't look like anything particular other than a beetle, but this type of bug actually carries a certain disease that they'll call Chagas disease. And so what happens is slowly and over time, not immediately, it will affect the heart, and the heart will eventually stop. So if it's not identified, you know, someone could potentially die from it. So once we were able to discover it, and thank goodness the father actually was able to find the beetle, we were able to give her medical attention. This is the picture is a little hard to see, but right around the left leg there was a very bad like a black widow spider bite, and this is an 8-year-old child that had come in, and it had really started kind of eating through, and he got sick, and he actually transferred because one of the hospitals he was at, they just weren't doing much, and it was getting worse, and then he came to us, and you can see that the tissue was starting to eat away and go down into the fat and into the muscle area, but he did recover. So there we'll do also some surgeries because there's also a lot of Caucasians there that get a lot of skin cancers, and so we'll spend a lot of time removing all those tumors from them. Sometimes we get interesting. You can see this is a burn on a patient's back. I think it was electrical wire that just kind of fell on the back and just kind of burned him up, and then it also affected his side. And this was interesting patient. If you can see, they're like little circles. There's white in the center and some scale around. And so they were treating this girl. She's 8 years old. They were treating her for dry skin and eczema. And they kept on and going. And eventually, after about a year, when I was able to come, they brought her over and they said, there's something going on. And this didn't look like your traditional eczema. And when we did the biopsy, surprisingly enough, it was leprosy. And so leprosy is one of those things you hear about in the Bible and other things like in the Middle East, but it actually happens, and there's a lot of, obviously, travel and tourism that people can get infected. Now, you know, with leprosy, what happens eventually is you'll get skin rashes, but eventually you'll lose the nerve endings there, and so you can also you can get cuts and infections you won't even know, and you can, you know, for those that aren't treated, eventually like fingers can fall off, limbs can fall off, and so on. So the therapy, however, is very, very hard because you have to be on 4 medicines. Some of these medicines will change the color of your skin, that you'll start to look like a burgundy red color, and unfortunately you have to be on these medications for almost 2 to 3 years before you can actually cure the leprosy. This was an African-American lady that we saw, and the side pictures are better. These are actually an autoimmune disease that you might have heard of. It's called lupus. And a lupus is something that your immune system attacks your skin, and certain things, especially when you get a lot of sun exposure, it makes things worse. So this lady's been going through it, and she was kind of undiagnosed, and she wasn't on treatment, so this has kind of gotten a little bit more severe, but we have put her on some treatment now. You can see the fingers there, unfortunately. This is actually rheumatoid arthritis. So what happens is you get so much inflammation that there's extra bone that's deposited in the fingers. Now for her, it's very, very hard to make a fist or grab anything like this, and this can be very painful. There are some medications. There's no cure for it. but you can see how debilitating it can be. And this was also another a lady that had a specific type of lupus that it kind of affected her cheek. I have actually seen her once more once we put her on therapy, and she's almost clear, so that's good. This is a little gross picture. I'm just going to warn you, so if you want to close your eyes. These are actually skin cancers, tumors, probably the most severe I've seen. This was an elderly gentleman, and these things were just growing. And the question is, how can you just let something like this grow for years? But, you know, being a guy, and then also not always having services, he just kind of let them be. And these skin cancers, to really treat them, you just have to remove them. You have to cut them out. This was also another interesting case. So it looks like nasal drainage or something coming out of her nose, but this is actually at the tip of her nose. So I was like, this is very unusual. I haven't seen anything like this before. When I touched it, it was a firm piece of plastic that was just there. And when I tugged it, her nose was tugged. So I asked her, did you ever had anything done, any like surgeries or anything? She's like, no, nothing. I don't know. It just started. Well, needless to say, eventually I was able to get a hold of one of her like older cousins or something, and she did have plastic surgery. So back in the day, when they did the nose job, it was an implant, and it was a plastic implant that started. They put it here, and it would come up to the very tip, and there was skin over there once before, but now the skin has just eroded out. So we had to refer for surgery to remove it, because that's the only way to fix it. They have certain orphanages there too, and so it's nice that we could go and offer services there. And you'll see, kids with various things. They're also really cute and smiley, and fun to play with. And then they also have a lot of kids with disabilities there that parents, unfortunately, being unable to care for them, have kind of left them there. But they're precious children. They're always smiling and happy. So that's fantastic. But certain things, they'll also get certain infections. They also have other medical problems that need to be taken care of and treated. So we're happy that we can come and work there. Now, also another thing that I enjoy to do, so we have a thing called Camp Discovery, and it's a camp for children with various skin disorders. So if you have anything from very severe psoriasis, eczema, blistering disorders and stuff, that you can come, and everything's provided for. So they don't have to pay for their trip during the camp. They just need volunteers to kind of help out. So this is one of my patients while I was there. And you can see he's wrapped up almost like a mummy. So he has a disorder called epidermolysis bullosa. What that means is he's missing the little proteins that keeps his skin intact. And so what happens, you get blisters all the time. So his skin is just constantly like peeling off. He can hold up like this, and you'll see pieces of skin kind of hanging. So one, you'll lose a lot of water. That way you get dehydrated. Two, you're at risk of infections. You're miserable. It hurts. It stings. So every morning we have to do a treatment. It takes 3 hours to unwrap everything, bathe them, and then wrap them up again. But and they have to be covered against the sun because they're at risk of sun cancers also. But these kids, though, it's amazing because these camps provide stuff with animals, and they can go in the swimming pools and stuff. You just have to be around there. But the joy you see in these faces, because one time a year they can just be themselves with other children that might have some similar disorders. So, and last, I want to say, and many of you might have already heard, because I know the Polyaks have volunteered for this and stuff, but there's Pathways to Health. And if you've never done it, you don't have to be a medical. You can do anything. But it's an excellent opportunity to help. This was one that was in Los Angeles, I think it was last year. And I think there was 8,000, 9,000 people that were served. They got the stadium, the main stadium over there in LA, and they blocked everything off. And certain things are for dental, certain things for for the eyes, and then they have medical, they have little surgeries, and so it's an amazing opportunity. So I wanted to share one patient, and this will be it. So this was a young lady that I saw. Her name was Carolina, and she had come with this giant birthmark that she was born with, and you can see it just kind of sticks out of the skin. She was always teased about it. She always wore like a cover up to here because she never wanted to show it. And she was really emotional, and she's gone to a bunch of doctors, and they just said we couldn't do anything about it. And so she finally came here, and there's a little video, and you'll hear her story, but she came to us, and we were able to provide treatment. So I'm going to show you a little before and after. The one on the far, actually your far right bottom, that's kind of the beginning, and then the transitions that we've done. And luckily, And thank God we've been able to almost clear it 100%. But her story is probably the most inspirational that I've heard. So I'm gonna see if the video can play. It's about 3 minutes long, and then we'll finish. I don't know if she was referred by another physician or she came to the door asking for dermatology. We are actually having laser services on this pathway to health, which is great. So she was sent there.
I wasn't sure that there's scope for her to really get anything done, but Dr. Bacco has seen many patients. He's done a lot of derm tattoo removal along the way. He's seen a lot of skin problems and issues for many years. So I felt like, hey, there's something that could happen in this case.
So I thought I could maybe handle some of it, but most of it needed to be surgically treated. So I referred her back to dermatology or plastic surgery.
She had very, very thick lesions that were kind of sticking out, and it's basically what we call epidermal nevus. It's kind of like a congenital mole, a birthmark, but they come in different shapes, sizes, colors, and hers pretty much encompassed the back of her neck, the front, and kind of down her chest.
Since I was born, I had it. When I was born, my mom saw it. She was devastated. She couldn't find a way to take it off. I heard this on the radio that they were having a convention. It was just the fact that you could do something about it, try to take it off. That's what brought me here.
We just have to, step by step, slowly just kind of remove each and every one of them so we can get really down to the base of it, and then in conjunction with the laser and other modalities, we can be able to kind of clear it almost 100%. I mean, she told me, by coincidence, she turned on the radio. She heard about it this morning. She got to work. Her boss wasn't even there.
I can never say no to that woman. I can never tell her, you know what, I'm just not going to come. Never give her an excuse. But she wasn't there, and I was like, oh my God, well, that makes it easier, I'm just going to go.
She called up and had, checked in for 10 minutes, checked out, drove all the way from San Bernardino, which is our Homeland area, to here, in traffic, to make here, to see what can be done. And that's after, 20 plus years happening.
I never thought, this morning, when I put on my shoes, I was going to come and, my life just completely went 360. It's overwhelming, what other people take for granted, it's like, I'm going to have it, I have a new life, I'm really grateful how everything just fell in order.
It's just to see the impact it had on her emotionally for so long. I mean, it's all coming out right now.
Everybody told me, you don't have hope. We can help you, They didn't even know me right off the bat. They're like, yes, go, here, let's do this. I just feel like these people are, angels. They're really nice. They're really nice.
To be able to offer the services, to be able to, and additionally, pray with the patients, and, I don't know what better word there is. No problem. The team of God, it's okay. I'm not too long.
I'm going to have a new life. I'm going to have a new life, and my smile is going to be bigger than ever, I just picture myself in my wedding dress, and being able to have my hair up is amazing, Being able to go to the beach and just letting my hair go crazy, it's just being able, it's a new freedom for me, and I'm blessed to say that. I'm very, very happy. Beyond everything. I just thank them so much, I'm very, very happy. I feel like I'm a person.
So we removed most of it during the seminar, and then she's been coming and seeing me I would say, over the last 6 months, just to kind of keep on with the laser work to kind of make it perfect. And even better than the physical improvement is she's been coming to church. She's been attending Bible studies. And so she lives close to the Loma Linda area. And we've been even more happier to see that she's really accepting God's word. Thank you.